Welcome to Sports Talk. I'm Larry Manns, and my guests this evening are Lowell Spies and George Moger, cross-country coaches at Port Huron High School. Welcome, gentlemen. You have to enjoy cross-country season because it offers an opportunity for you to coach a number of kids who are doing basically the same thing. They're running a long distance.
Right. And they can compare themselves with each other and get a little support from the other individuals that are carrying them along and help the younger runners. And there's more camaraderie, I think, in cross-country, maybe in track. It's not so much of an individual sport.
How do you motivate a youngster to run 3 miles, George?
Well, there's lots of different techniques you can try. I try to vary the types of workouts that we do, the distances, the places that we run. We try and go a lot of different places. A lot of the young ladies that I have out this year, we're fortunate to have the largest team ever at Port Huron High, are out because they want to try something new. It's a real team experience. It's more like a family. Like Lowell was saying, with track, you have so many different events going on at once. This is just one single event. Everybody runs the same thing, and there's a real family feeling of everybody trying to help each other out, making the same, distance in their race and whatnot.
With your upperclassmen, though, and those that have had really track experience, they're familiar with some of the events at a regular track meet. You're getting some younger ninth graders, I'm sure, who at the intermediate level do not have cross-country as an experience. How do you explain cross-country to them? And what do you do to get them out for the team?
The easiest way is just say, follow the leader.
Is that right?
One of the biggest problems with cross-country, I think, is being able to know what the course is. Occasionally, during a race, they'll make the wrong turn, or the leader will be hesitant as to where to go, and they have to wait for someone to catch up or to holler where to go. During practice, we may be running a certain loop, and the younger kids aren't familiar with it, so that the older upperclassmen will be sort of leaders, and it's an experience just to follow where you're supposed to go during the workout.
This year with me, it's been a little unique, Larry, in that I have 2 freshmen that are in my top 5 and have been right up there leading a lot. And I've got to make sure they know where they're going. They can't, unfortunately, follow the leaders all the time because they are up there leading.
Of course, in setting the course, you're holding your event at Central, if I'm not mistaken, using the peripheral field. You want to explain that and what a course might entail?
Well, a cross-country course, you have supposedly a solid white line that covers the course, and then every turn, yellow flag means that you go to the right around the flag, and a red flag means you go left around the flag, and a blue flag means you go straight ahead on either side. So some of the courses don't use flags, they use pylons, and we have to find out which side of the pylon we go on and so forth. But if the course is marked correctly, it's not too difficult for the individual to follow.
Most courses we do walk it before we run it as well, so the athlete is prepared to know where to go.
Well, how about during your training sessions? You don't just train on that home course, do you? Or do you use other areas to make it a little bit different? I'm sure just running for 3 miles every day or whatever your regimen might be, it's got to be, quote, is it boring for the kids to run that same course, or do you make it exciting for them?
Well, you try to vary that. As I mentioned, I probably have, and I'm sure Lowell does too, about 7 or 8 different courses that we can run that would be either 3, 4, 5, or 6 miles. We run, I would bet, maybe in 1/10 of our times we run on the actual course. So I try to vary it as much as possible because you're right, it does get very boring to run the same thing over and over and over again.
You're coaching the girls, and of course you have the boys teams. Is there separate practice things? You run your practices separate. Yes. Do you at some point motivate the others by sort of having a co-ed meet or an inter-squad meet, or you basically are running them separate?
I've never tried that. Maybe we should, Lowell.
I just thought, there might be something there in terms of motivation. We know that some of the times certainly might be different, but and yet some of the times could be equally as well, depending on
the junior varsity,
the skill of the youngster.
Junior varsity races usually in a big meet are run together. And occasionally when a girl comes up on a guy, it makes him pick up a little bit because he doesn't like to get beat by a girl, and the girl has a challenge to try and beat the fellow. So the JV races get a little competitive with the junior varsity runners, but in the varsity we run at different times. But basically the only difference between the guy and the gal is the time.
What would constitute a good workout? And both of you can respond to this really in terms of, let's say, a week's practice is trying to set up, let's say, at the beginning of the year. What might be the kinds of things that you would do during that week?
Well, I think a basic week for me would be on a Monday, we do a distance run, maybe a 5 or 6 miles. Again, we might go to different places around the town. Like just last Monday, we went out into the community and ran out in the on Wadhams Road and out in that area. Yesterday, we did some intervals at stadium steps. Today, we're going to be running another distance race workout. Tomorrow will be we're going to go to one of the girls' homes who's on the team and run some hills in her backyard. Friday will be around the school, and Saturday is our meet. So I try to vary it where we have distance days and then what I call interval days. And interval days are when we run shorter distances at a faster speed so that your body gets used to running at a faster speed. And we try to alternate that between a distance day and an interval day.
So when you begin your cross-country practice at the beginning of the year, you certainly want those youngsters to be ready for that first race, which basically is about the first week in September when you come back to school. So there is that preparation. And of course, during the season, you're into meets, twice a week or so, plus Saturdays. The kind of readiness that it takes and the mental readiness for that youngster, you've got to be on them basically all the time to keep them motivated, don't you?
Right, I tell them that it's not like your other sports. When the gun goes off, you have to be ready to go, and there's no timeouts. And so the first race, usually it's an experience for the new runners. They want to go out too fast, and they get into the second mile or so, and they're going to get tired, and the third mile, they're pretty well exhausted. So they have to learn to pace themselves. And so in intervals, we're trying to get them to run at a pace that they know so that when they get in a race, some rabbit goes out too fast, they hold back and don't go faster than their own pace, because each individual basically is trying to beat their own time. They're trying to beat the other team, but if they try and go too fast, then I always tell them a dog that runs fast doesn't run long. So they're going to have a slower time basically if they go out too fast.
Which gets us really into the scoring kind of thing too, because it's really a team event. And when we score cross country, I'm going to let you explain that in a minute as to how the scoring goes. And yet, you talked about individual. You want their best time, and they're still a member of the team. Explain the scoring setup in a cross-country meet.
Is done fairly simply. The biggest difference is that you have the lowest score wins in a cross-country meet. And you get that by when everybody starts off, the first runner who crosses the line is given 1 point. The second runner is given 2 points, the third runner 3, and so forth. And then you add up the places that your team comes in, and then the team with the first 5 runners count. And you take those 5 scores and add them up. The team with the lowest score is the winning team. And it's a fairly simple procedure. The thing you got to remember, just like golf, is that the lowest score wins.
So it really is an interesting kind of thing when somebody's out there watching.
Right.
You could still win the meet by having a youngster finish 17th, for example.
Right. Yep. Yeah, we had a meet this year, as a matter of fact, where the other team at Romeo, the other team took first and second, and then we took the next 7 places. And if you were looking, you'd think, oh, Romeo won, but we were able to beat them because of we had 5, 6 runners in before their runners were in.
What constitutes an official team? How many members can run during that meet? And I guess all of them, but how many constitute an official team?
Well, in the MAC this year, we decided that some courses don't accommodate too many runners, and we have some double dual meets where we have 3 teams running at once. So if any of the coaches do not want the full team to run, then we can only enter up to 12.
So 12 would be
from each team. But basically 7 encounter the scoring. And getting into the scoring, at the meet at Romeo, George was talking about, we ran Eisenhower also, and we tied, the boys, Poyer boys tied 29-29. So for the tiebreaker, you go to the 6th place man, and their 6th place man beat ours, so we lost. And then the next meet, when we ran, we had, if you take the first 3 places in a dual meet, the other team can't get a low enough score to beat you. So we took first and second, and our 3rd place man was 4th by 1 second. So we ended up losing the meet because our 4th and 5th men were too slow.
Well, it's a good way to motivate the team. Hey,
Yeah.
you got to be in there 1, 2, 3. In
Yeah.
fact, it'd be nice to finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever,
Right.
wouldn't it?
That's
That's the lowest score. Has that ever happened?
Oh, yeah, you have
it?
lots of teams that, many of the Grosse Pointe South teams and teams like that have finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's called a shutout. And when that happens, you go home and work a little bit harder.
Work a little bit harder.
Yeah.
But to get to that point, though, I guess is the point we talked about earlier, the motivation and how you get youngsters excited about cross country, because really it's a dedication basically
Yeah.
to running and enjoying running, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You got to have a special kind of an athlete, I believe, one that's very self-motivated and self-disciplined. We talk about, you mentioned that you have to be ready for that first week and that first meet. A lot of running depends on what you do in the summertime, and that's when you have to get out and just do it on your own. And those are the kind of, like I said, you need a special kind of athlete who's willing to do that by themselves, because we all know what it's like to go out and try to work out on our own. It's hard to do that, but many of them do, and that's what makes them successful.
What kind of carryover do you have, let's say, from cross country to regular track? They're both, different sports, certainly. But do you get that carryover from, let's say, the cross country runner to the regular track program, or do you vice versa? Do you get that distance runner or middle distance runner who now comes out for the cross country team?
You'd think that it would be easier and they'd look forward to running track, but some individuals just don't like track. They don't like running around that circle, but they like running out on a golf course or around the perimeter of a school ground or something in a wide open space, everyone doing the same thing. So some individuals are all track and others are all cross country. But I think your cross country runner, it takes some more discipline. So if you took the grade point averages, probably your cross country team would be one of the highest ones of the athletic teams in school.
You figure that there is a relationship to that discipline and,
Right.
Yeah.
and academics?
Yeah, and to get back to your other question, Larry, that I've got an interesting carryover this year. I have 4 or 5 girls on the team that are sprinters on the track team who have come out, never ran more than maybe a half mile, and this year they did fantastic. They're out running 3 miles, and we hope that it will carry over and make them strong in the track season, so that when it comes to that 3rd or 4th time they're racing a sprint race, they'll be strong enough from their experience in cross country. So that there is quite a bit of carryover that I see on the girls' side this year. And that is unique because we've never had that happen before.
Of course, it's interesting too, I think, in looking at what's going to happen the rest of the season with the MAC League and some of the regionals and so on. And I'm sure you're going to be well represented. Expect some good things to happen as a result
We
of that.
hope so.
Good. George, Lowell, I want to thank you for being my guest. Be right back with the Northern coaches.
That's my dad. And that's Mom. Dad's got an idea. A way to get rid of all the grody garbage that's polluting the world. He's invented a big rocket ship to shoot all the garbage into outer space. Mom's not sure. But Dad says his invention will save the world.
There's an easier way to save the world. Recycle. For your free recycling action guide, write Recycle. Environmental Defense Fund, 257 Park Avenue South, New York, New York.
Kathy, you must always remember that hitting is not acceptable. You're bigger, you're stronger. Don't hit. Whenever you feel yourself getting angry, you take time out. You know what time out is. You cool off and keep yourself from doing something you're going to be sorry for later. Do you understand?
Well, do you? Take time out. Don't take it out on your child.
Welcome back to Sports Talk. I'm with Joy Buhager and Mark Maxwell, cross-country coaches at Port Huron Northern.
Hi.
And welcome.
Thank you.
Hi.
You're getting some nice publicity with the runners that you have, and they're underclassmen.
Yeah, we have some outstanding freshman runners that came over from Holland Woods, and one was from Chippewa too. They're just they're real athletic, a lot of potential, a lot of talent, and they're very competitive. So they've been leading the team so far.
Well, that's great. I was talking with the coaches from Port Huron High School talking about underclassmen coming over, and how do you motivate them, or even how do you explain cross-country? How do you do that, Mark?
Well, explaining is not so much the problem, but the problem is that they come from the intermediate schools, and the training is a little bit different there. And they run 2 miles as the greatest distance in track. So when they come to us, they run 3.1 miles or 5 kilometers. It's a lot different training, a lot harder, a lot more volume, and sometimes it takes them a while to adjust to that.
When you say cross-country, what's cross-country?
Well, they're assuming it's track. They're going to run around, 8 times on a track or a little bit more. So they get kind of fired up when you tell them, well, no, you get to run in parks and on golf courses and, back where the nature is. So that excites them. But it's not hard to motivate freshmen. They're usually fairly excited by themselves.
Trying to keep the upperclassmen motivated,
right.
is that the key?
Yes.
Okay. Well, how do you do it?
You mean the upperclassmen?
Sure.
Well, they have those freshmen behind them that are keeping them moving. Plus, they've had experience, and they know that the season is fun, that it's a challenge, that they have a long time to improve, and that there's always unexpected things around the corner. So they're ready for that.
Well, the coach's responsibility to make sure that they are having fun, isn't it?
Well, it's really hard sometimes there is a fun element, and they usually learn that as they go down the road. But it's not like soccer or other sports where it's like a game. It's a lot of hard training, which is actually, I think, better for them than a lot of sports because it's making their heart a lot stronger. It's making them more flexible in the process. And probably, most importantly, it's going to strengthen their mind because they have to really have a really strong mind, a strong will, and they have to be psychologically tough to survive in this sport, and that's what it is.
Well, that's a good point that you make, in terms of physical fitness and the long-term effect and what that can do. And certainly those are, some of the secondary kinds of things, in many cases primary, that athletics, provide for the youngsters who are participating. And, as we look at that, you talk about cardiovascular and so on and so forth. You explain that and say, hey, I want to do that. I want to run. I want to have some fun. How are the meets conducted in terms of the MAC and so on? I mean, you're running dual meets, you're running singlers, you're running, there's a lot of invitationals going on. Just explain briefly the season to us.
Basically, during the week, we usually have our conference competes on Tuesday, and we have what are called double dual meets. And in that way, we save wear and tear on our athletes because we're running 2 schools at once rather than in the old EML where we ran them one-on-one. So we get 3 schools running, and we have more time to train. And we have 2 double duels, I believe, and we have 1 home meet against Sterling Heights. On Saturdays, we normally go to invitationals, and that prepares us for the long races at the end of the season, like the state finals and that.
Personal gratification in terms of improvement, I'm sure is a goal that you have as a coach, trying to make youngsters understand that, hey, I want to get better, I want to succeed. Do you do any charting, or do they do their own charting of times or workouts, Joy?
Oh, well, I always keep track of how they do from meet to meet. Plus, I break it down into the individual miles to let them know how they're doing in one part of the race as opposed to another part. And then they can take a look at that and see where they need to work. Do they need to work more on the 2nd mile or the 3rd mile? And we do that on a regular basis, and we keep constant goals that they want to meet specific times during the race. Because if you just generally say you have to run faster, that's not something specific enough. They need a goal, and they can hear that as they're going along in a race, and they'll know whether they're in the right spot or not.
But you were talking about the beginning of the race, the 1st mile or 2nd mile, which really there's got to be some strategy to cross country. Mm-hmm. And as a coach, I know that, you think about that strategy and where they want to be. How do you get that into the training regimen, the strategy and the pacing that may be necessary?
Well, I've got a couple of drills that I do, and when you mention strategy, of course, there is a strategy, and it has to dovetail with the training, because if you don't have those 2 working together, if they can't deliver the strategy in the middle of the race, it's no good. But one that I do, and I've used before, is I take and have my runners take off in ascending order, 30 seconds apart, and my slower runners going out first and the very best runner going out last. And then on our course, they try to pursue each other. When the man comes up from behind, of course, there's a holding him off, not letting him pass, and keeping your position, picking the guy off ahead. That's one drill that I've used that seems to work pretty well for that.
But when you're looking at the course and you're a couple miles out or away from where the coach might be, and you talk about strategy, being able to block, or there are some rules in terms of interference or obstruction or what have you. How does that happen, and how, if somebody would report that at the finish line, hey, this guy blocked me out or he did something. Does that happen?
Well, it seldom happens in cross country because the kids spread out so much and they're not quite as restricted as to the course that they have to run. They can run anywhere within 6 feet either side of the designated course of the line. And the
So unless there's a bunch, that really wouldn't
Yeah.
happen. But it could happen, though.
And it does at times, but unless there is a meet inspector that witnesses it, generally, whether the athlete complains or not, something is not carried out. It's got to be witnessed.
I would think this would be true, though, where you get into the invitationals where you have 7 or 8 schools or even more schools at a run, and you talked about inspectors. They do station those people at various spots within the course itself.
Generally at the mile marks. The place you mostly have inspectors is in the chute area when the kids come into the finish, especially some of the big meets when you have 10 kids coming in within a 3-second period of time and they're all trying to get into the chute and get their place. There's a lot of juggling around and making sure that kids stay in position. And if there's any kind of pushing and shoving, you can be disqualified for that.
I'm going to say that happens, but getting back to that strategy part is which raised that question, in terms of that 30-second interval and so on and during the training. Do you do some similar things to that?
We do some intervals where we will try and have them run, I have them run 3 repeat miles, and they're supposed to do every mile exactly at the same time. Theory is if they can do them in practice, they can do the same pace during the race. We also do the same thing with half-mile repeats. We have them run the same time for the same distance, so 6 half-mile repeats would make almost 3.1 miles.
So as a coach, you really have to know your runners and what you can expect of them. And how about personal goals? Do you help them with their personal goals? Hey, we're starting here, 18 minutes or whatever. That time, I think I'd be more like 25 if I started. But I want to get to a certain point by the end of the year or by a certain point in the season. How do you develop that within a runner?
My runners on my team, and I'm sure Joy does the same thing, we have, some of ours are going to be around for 4 years, so they actually have career goals where they would like to be at the state level. But I've got it broken down into, we have short-term goals or intermediate goals, and they're usually on maybe a 2-week to 3-week basis. And then, of course, there's season goals, and they try to reach those. And we try to make them so they're not outrageous and impossible to achieve, but goals.
Which means you got to have their input at some point.
Oh, yes. And it's their goals. It's what they want. It's not what the coach wants. As a matter of fact, I don't have any real team goals because in a sport where so much individual effort is required, it would be kind of tough on them to require team goals. Anything that the individual goals bring us will come as a team.
Generally bring it as a team. Leadership is a critical thing in terms of cross-country as well as other sports, certainly. But how much do you rely on that upperclassman to provide the leadership for that cross-country team, especially when you can't be running the course with them during the meet?
Well, I rely heavily on mine. I have 3 senior captains this year, all of which were returning from our top 7. And they work a lot during practice, and when I'm not around, listen to what the girls say, make sure that they're doing the workouts that they're supposed to do or doing the cool down. Let me know if there's any problems which the girls don't want to relate to me. Plus, through their example, through their hard work, and through the way that they run, they pull the other kids along too. So it's very important.
How many runners do you have on your team this year, Joey?
Well, I have a record 19 runners this year, so we have a real good turnout. We had a lot of upperclassmen who have never run cross-country, sophomores and juniors.
What do you attribute that to?
Well, I think part of it is talking to the kids during the track season. They've not experienced cross-country. They think it's too demanding of a sport, so they don't try it as freshmen. But as I talk to them when I see them on the track, and then the other runners, the seniors, talk to them and get them out. And then Coach Nesbitt also helped out by explaining that the distance program really does contribute to the overall track program. So
you're making that tie-in with the distance runners
Yes.
part of the track program. How about your numbers, Mark?
I've got 18 boys out, and that's one of our better turnouts. And the advantage that I have is that not only am I the cross-country coach, I'm also the track distance coach.
So you got the whip going a little bit.
I have the same people all year long, so I have to shift my thinking a little bit in what I do in track and field, but basically I have the same crew and the same program, basically.
How successful have you been so far this season?
Well, we've had pretty good luck so far in terms of, we won the Algonac Invitational. We were very pleased at that.
Was that a surprise?
No, we knew we would be in the top 2. Now, generally, Grosse Pointe South is there, and we were hoping they'd be there again so we could beat them. But they didn't show up, so we...
They were afraid.
Well, no, I think they just wanted a change of pace. But we ended up winning it in a record low number of points. We were very pleased, though, in the overall races. The kids ran exceptionally well. We've done pretty well in the league so far. We're 2-2. Unfortunately, we have a couple major injuries that may kind of set us back a little bit.
We hope that's going to correct
Well, we have
itself.
great depth, and I think that'll help.
You're pretty good too, are you?
Well, we don't have the team that we had last year. We've got 2 boys running college right now, but that were on our team last season that were good runners, and we're 3-1 in the conference. We got a 1-point victory over East Detroit last night. We took our first loss to Stevenson, but we also, like Joy's team, won the Algonac, which was a surprise to me. I wasn't expecting it, and I think we're going to do well, but we need a couple more runners in the tail.
We wish you good luck, and we know with the motivation that you're giving these kids, you're going to be very successful. Thanks for being my guest,
Thank you.
Joy, Mark. This is Larry Manns. Good evening.
Jeffrey, hitting is wrong. You're bigger, you're stronger. You cool off and you don't hit. Period. Is that understood? Is it?
Well, is it? Take time out. Don't take it out on your child. A public service message from the National Committee for Prevention of Child Abuse.
The Civil Air Patrol is celebrating 50 years of service to the nation. Come join this all-volunteer service organization, the U.S. Air Force Auxiliary, and help celebrate another 50 years. Your skills and training are needed to help Civil Air Patrol remain the nation's #1 emergency services organization. For more information, contact your local CAP unit or write National Headquarters, Civil Air Patrol, Maxwell Air Force Base, Alabama, 36112.